Hey, what's going on, y'all? You tuned in to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. And on the line with me today, listen, before I even introduce him, I have literally known this young man his whole life. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if that's telling me I'm getting old, or I can finally say, you know, I kind of remember you when you was born. You know how old people like to lie. Like, I've been knowing you since you was knee-high to a duck butt. But this young man I got on the phone right now is someone I actually have known since he was knee-high to a duck butt. I mean, when I say that his grandmother used to feed me after school, because I went to school with his daddy and his uncle. When I say his grandma used to feed me after school and had good food, oh, man, it was great. So on the line with me right now, I have Bryson, Nation Blogga on Twitter, and he's an admin for the Bias Sports Talk group on Facebook. How's it going, nephew?
What's going on, man?
Hey, listen, it's finally, I'm glad to finally have you on the show, on the podcast, you know, since we go back and forth on Twitter so much. And, you know, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later on. But man, that whole Anthony Davis thing that started, man, where did the millennials come from, bro? Do you have like a millennials wasp nest or something? Because they came out of nowhere to attack me.
I'm just saying, man, like I don't mean to send my people out on people, but sometimes they do too much, you know. They get too happy.
They get too happy.
They be ready to pounce, you know.
I see that. I see it. But then I had, you see how I had to come back with him. I was like, I'm not finna get into no conversation when you think that Joe Osteen built Lakewood Church when it used to be the Summit. You ain't never known that the Rockets played on channel 39 and 20. So I was like, all right. And yeah, like these millennials came out of nowhere. I'm saying to myself, don't y'all got some skinny jeans to try to put on or something? So look, let's go ahead. Speaking of skinny jeans, let's just go ahead and jump right into this thing. So on Thursday, and I think I said this the other day on the radio, but every time a blockbuster trade goes down and something happens, I'm asleep. When the Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, when Kawhi Leonard signed with the Clippers and, you know, the Paul George trade went down, I was asleep. I woke up the next morning. I was like, what happened? And that's the exact same thing that happened on Thursday, because I got in from the All-Star game late, about 3:30 in the morning on that Thursday morning. So I was jet lagged the entire day. So I was sleeping. I wake up and I look at my phone and I'm saying to myself, like, this can't possibly have happened. When the Rockets traded for Russell Westbrook, they traded Chris Paul and 2 picks to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Russell Westbrook. How did that make you feel as a Rockets fan?
It was a very like weird, eerie feeling, you know, like you kind of felt like it wasn't real. You kind of felt like this isn't real life, like I'm dreaming, like at least for myself. And, you know, in all honesty, we would have been right back in the mix, first round, second round. But the way that Chris Paul's body has eroded, going, you know, all of year 2, and, you know, going into year 3, it wasn't with Paul George and Kawhi going to the Clippers, with LeBron and Anthony Davis in LA, with Utah getting better, Portland getting better, pretty much every team in the West adding pieces. It was kind of like with Chris Paul, we wasn't going to get back to where we need to be, but just off of Harden, we would have made the playoffs. But in terms of actually winning, it was getting Russell Westbrook was the best thing that could have happened.
So let me ask you a question then, Bryson. And once again, you're tuning into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. And I got Bryson, Nation Blogga on Twitter and admin of the Bias Sports Talk group on Facebook. Here's the thing, and because you watch just as many Rockets games as I do, don't you think that if the Rockets would have changed their system, if Mike D'Antoni would have switched to a more traditional offense at some point in time, that you could have gotten at least 2 more years out of Chris Paul instead of, making him take all these jump shots and having him off the ball, instead of putting Harden off the ball and letting Chris Paul run the offense. In game four in the series against the Golden State Warriors, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I think it was the fourth quarter where Chris Paul had a sequence, like 3 or 4 sequences where he just took over, moved Harden out the way, and it looked like a real offense for that amount of time. And then after that, they went away from it.
I honestly don't remember that.
Yeah, so it was in game 4 in Toyota Center, and it was like in the fourth quarter, Chris Paul got the ball and he moved Harden out the way. He told him, go to the wing. I got this. And in like 3 or 4 possessions, he scored twice himself, and he also set up 2 of his players to score. And I'm saying that if they allowed him to run this type of offense, it'll be good. So do you think that if D'Antoni would have been willing to change some of his system, y'all could have got a little bit more out of Chris Paul?
That's a very, very good possibility. It's 2 ways to look at it. I mean, of course, that's a very good way to look at it, but that's not the way that personally that I see it for myself. And we have these. I'm sure we had these conversations, but last year the Rockets won 65 games playing a certain way, and Chris Paul was effective playing that way. You go to the Western Conference Finals, you have your best season in franchise history by far. You go to the playoffs and you become you're 1 game within of beating the Golden State Warriors, a team that everybody loves how they play. They love the ball movement of the team and everything like that. And then the Rocket style, the way that quote unquote can't win, you almost beat that team that everybody loves playing that way. So I would understand, like, as a franchise, as an organization, as a coaching staff, like, that style of ball almost got us to where we wanted to go. Why not continue to run? And with Chris Paul being in and out of the lineup last year, James Harden had kind of took over the reins of what the offense was going to look like.
Gotcha. So during that time when it was Capella, Gordon, and Paul out, and it was just all James Harden, which, side note, that's why I said Harden deserved the MVP over Giannis this year. And, I listen, being in the media, I knew that he wasn't going to win it because there's a media bias against James Harden. Some people think that he doesn't play the game the right way. And I say to them, and I told them, you don't think he plays the game the right way, but where is he cheating the game? Well, he gets to the free throw line too much. I was like, that's not against the rules, though. He is playing within the confines of the rules, and y'all don't like the way that he's playing. Y'all, and I said, if you look at it, he can do what I said. If you switch teams, that's what I said. Excuse me. I said, if you switch teams, if you put James Harden on Milwaukee and put Giannis on the Rockets and take 3 players away and put Giannis under that adversity that James Harden, there's no possible way he could lead the team like James Harden led the team. That's what made me upset about the entire thing. But going back to to what we were talking about with Chris Paul, I honestly and truly think that he could have been just a tad bit more effective if the offense would have changed. And I don't think that Mike D'Antoni was willing to change. I don't think that Mike D'Antoni wanted to change. Now, with that being said, you got a player coming in here, Bryson, that I've watched his entire career because my fandom is on the line right now. Because KD is my favorite player, but I did not want to root for the Golden State Warriors. I just did not. So I stuck with the Oklahoma City Thunder and watched Russell Westbrook. And I said, well, if Russ gonna stay there, then I'm gonna stay there. And now that he's gone, then I may be like a Nets fan. But watching Russell play his entire career, there's 2 things. One, I know that he's an erratic shooter sometimes. He can be. But 2, he's never played for a coach that could coach him. Scott Brooks couldn't control him. Billy Donovan couldn't control him. Mike D'Antoni is a player's coach. What's going to happen once you all get him into on the sideline when something doesn't go his way? Do you think he blows up? Like, do you think that his attitude may be too volatile to play for the Rockets?
I don't think so, because I don't remember ever hearing anything publicly or privately. I'm sure there have been talks privately, but I don't remember ever hearing anything publicly about Russell Westbrook feuding with a coach. I don't remember him ever publicly or during the game or, in an article throwing anybody under the bus with coaching, when it comes to Billy Donovan or when it came to Scott Brooks. He never, if anything, James Harden has, less, a worse record coaches than Russell Westbrook.
But there's been times when Billy Donovan has tried to pull Westbrook out the game and he wouldn't come out. He just told him, no, I'm not coming out. And so that's what, because I've watched Russell his entire career. I've watched every game he's played in the NBA. And so he got to that point with Scott Brooks. He got to that point with Billy Donovan, to the point where he's like, I'm not coming out. That's why I was surprised that he wanted to come to the Rockets. Like, he needs a coach like a Popovich, or what's the coach that used to coach for Memphis that coaches in Fizdale up in New York?
Yeah.
He needs somebody that's going to tell him, look, Russ, I don't care. Like, you can say what you want to say. You're going to come out of this game. I'm prepared to lose my job. Or Alvin Gentry, somebody he respects. I'm not saying he doesn't respect Mike D'Antoni, but I know Mike D'Antoni's attitude. So you don't think at no point in time that there may be a time where he's going to say or test Mike D'Antoni to see where he stands?
I mean, possibly it might be conversations. I'm not going to say that it's going to be all, peaches and cream the first year and it's not going to be any type of adversity. I definitely think that it's going to be a challenge. But, I mean, I feel like when you in a situation like Russell Westbrook, where he's in his, 11th season, going on his 12th season, he's 30 years old, and you playing with James Harden in a situation where that show, they say they know each other since they were 10 years old. So, yeah. And the way that you're playing isn't working. The way that Harden played came the closest to working, but then the Chris Paul, erosion started to happen. You know what I mean? And so now you get I'm not going to say Russell Westbrook is the same. Like, they not wired different. They not wired the same at all. Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook play a completely different brand of basketball. But for what Chris Paul did in his system, Russell Westbrook can do it, can do in this system as well. The only thing that'll be slacks off is, his shooting, obviously, and his his decision making. But he makes up for that in other areas. So, but I just feel like, when you have players that are like later in their careers and they've accomplished everything that they can accomplish individually, and it's time to get a chip, you get a certain mentality. I could be totally wrong about this, and it could go wrong. And, him and Mike D'Antoni could be at odds. But you never know. I just feel like that's not that type of situation.
And that's what I want to ask you, too, because Russell Westbrook shot 29% from three-point range on last year. And, a lot of that had to do with, too, with the fact that when Paul George got hurt, he had to start hurling up a lot of more shots when Paul George got the shoulder injury. If you look at his stats after the All-Star break is actually when Paul George got hurt. He had to start doing a little bit more compared to what he had to do the first half. I'm not trying to give him, any excuse or anything like that, because he's never been a great three-point shooter. He's streaky at best. If he gets to going, he can hit you like 5 or 6 threes, but he can also miss 10 threes for you as well.
But if you look, honestly, what you said was right about how, the dynamic of the team switched, when Paul George started getting hurt. But if you look at it, Russell Westbrook, it just seemed like the entire time Paul George was healthy, Russell Westbrook couldn't hit a shot. As soon as Paul George got hurt, Russell Westbrook started becoming more efficient post All-Star break. He started shooting from the field better. He started shooting from three better. It was kind of crazy to look at you couldn't shoot when Paul George was scorching, everybody. And then as soon as Paul George get hurt and he can't hit a shot, now you getting better. Now you're getting more efficient. It was kind of crazy how it worked out.
I think that it was more, too, by the fact of I don't think that he came in the first half of the season thinking about scoring. He was just thinking about getting the rebounds, getting the assists, getting the ball to Paul George, trying to show people that he's actually changed. And now that he has somebody that he can play with, like when he used to play with Kevin Durant, now somebody he can get the ball to, somebody that he trusts. For the longest time after Kevin left and before Paul George got there, he didn't trust a lot of people. And, watching him, he would start off a game. Russell Westbrook always starts a game to see who's hot, see who's going to be effective. If you're not going to be effective, then he says, then I got to put it in my hands because I don't want to lose, and I'm going to do whatever it takes for us not to lose. Now, you got two alpha males on that Rockets team now in Russell Westbrook and James Harden. But like I said, and Russ doesn't shoot the three good. What happens when these defenses back off of him and don't let him get into the paint and dares him to shoot now? Because you really couldn't do that with Chris Paul.
I mean, okay. Chris Paul has always been a better shooter than Russell Westbrook, and always is. Probably is to this day. But last year, Chris Paul was not scorching it in the postseason. He was not. He had one great game in the postseason last year, and that was Game 6, which is the game that the Rockets got eliminated in. It seemed like he saved all of his juice specifically for that game because he almost had 30 points. It was crazy to watch.
Because Game 5, he was not good.
Yes, Game 5, 3 of 14 from the field, 0 of 6 from 3. You know, that's what he did Game 5. Russell Westbrook, if he's struggling, if he's 0 for 6, he can still get you 28 points.
Yeah.
He can still get past his man in isolation. He can still do a whole different, a lot of things, to affect the game if his shot is not falling. Chris Paul, if his shot wasn't falling, the only thing he had left was his passing ability. And you can't depend on role players time after time to make every single shot. At some point, you have to be the star and take over.
That makes perfect sense. Listen, we're about to take a break, but when we come back, man, I want to get I want you to tell me what you see as far as the Rockets season is concerned. With now that they have Russell Westbrook, where do you see them going and how they will, we'll do this. I want to know your season outlook, and then we'll do your way too early top 5 for the Western Conference. How about that?
All right. So
once again, tuned into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I got Bryson from the Nation Blogga and the Bias Sports Talk. It's Bias Sports Talk on Facebook, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and they a bunch of millennials over there too. We'll be back. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Big Sarge here, host of the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. And down here in the state of Texas, we are known for our great tasting barbecue. If you're looking for the best quality meats and full catered dinners at a very inexpensive price, make sure you contact Victor Smokebox Barbecue and Catering. Family owned and operated by Kevin and Ashley Victor, they are ready to handle all your catering needs. Just call 832-414-2409. Once again, that's 832-414-2409, or follow them on Facebook at the Smokebox BBQ. Victor Smokebox Barbecue lives by the motto, we cook it low, you eat it slow. I'm out. Hey, welcome back. Tuned in to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. And I got my nephew on the line right now, the Nation Blogga on Twitter and the Bias Sports Talk group on Facebook. Now, Bryson, I got to ask you this. The Rockets made some really good moves that I had been advocating for on Twitter. I said, you got to bring back Austin Rivers, and they brought him back. I said, you got to get Daniel House Jr. back into the fold, and that's what they did. They also brought in they also brought back Gerald Green. They're going to get ready to sign Hardenstein to a guaranteed contract. They got Gary Clark Jr. They got what's the guy's name that plays point guard in the for the summer league?
Shamari Pons.
The other one,
Chris Cummins.
Yeah, that one. The one that he's the one that led the nation in scoring last year, right?
Yes.
I like him too. He looked like he should play safety, but that's another story for another time. So the Rockets have actually put together a good group of role players around Harden and Westbrook to go along with PJ Tucker, to go along with Clint Capella, to go along with Eric Gordon. Where do you see them? What do you see their season like? Before I ask you about the Western Conference top 5, where do you see this team? Let's just say by the end of the season going into the playoffs on next year.
Top 3 seed in the West and one of the favorites to get out. I'm sure if we talk about national media standards, then the Rockets are going to be like 3rd, 4th, or 5th on the list. But if we're going by I feel like my standards are realistic. Some people may not feel that. Some people may feel like I'm a homer. But I feel like personally, championship is definitely a possibility for this basketball team. I do. I feel like in the West this year is going to come down more to role players and who's healthier than this ever has before. Because Harden and Westbrook is star power. Kawhi and PG is star power. LeBron and AD is star power. Those are like the strongest stars in the West, assuming Golden State. If Klay can get back healthy, they'll definitely be in that tier 1 group as well. And it's going to come down to which team has the better 3rd, 4th, 5th option that can make plays, that can make shots, that can make stops. That's what it's going to come down to, because the stars are going to do what the stars are going to do.
Yeah.
It's going to be about which team is coached well, which team is, executes, and that's what it's going to be about. And I feel like the Rockets bench with Daniel House, with Austin Rivers, with Gerald Green getting minutes here and there, and, Russell Westbrook mostly running that second unit, we'll definitely we'll cause trouble for any team.
Were you – let me ask you this question. Happier that you got Westbrook, or would have been more happy if you'd have got Jimmy Butler?
I think I'm happier with the Westbrook one, because you get to keep EG, you get to keep Clint Capella. If you trade for Jimmy Butler, you still have Chris Paul, who can be effective but not as effective as Russell Westbrook. And then you get Jimmy Butler, but at the cost of a little bit of depth, and now you have no center.
Do you think that Jimmy Butler is a top 10 player in the NBA right now?
No, I don't think he's top 10. I do believe that it's fluid, though. I mean, if somebody wanted to put him in there at like 9 or 10, I would listen, I would, because in the playoffs for the 76ers, he was their best player. That's on the team with Embiid and with Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I made a case, I think it was last year when I was doing my show, that I think I could name you 15 players in the NBA I think that's better than Jimmy Butler. Like, I honestly and truly think I can name you 15 players that I think are better than Jimmy Butler. He's top 20. But I don't see Jimmy Butler as a top 15 player. And so
that's fine. That's fair.
Yeah, and that's why I kept saying, I kept telling I did the podcast called you don't need a butler to clean your house. You already got Daniel House Jr. I feel like Daniel House Jr. can be Jimmy Butler. The more they coach him up, the more they allow him to play, the more.
That's a big when you say that, I feel like that's a lot of expectations. That if Daniel House turns out to be a Jimmy Butler type player, that instantly extends James Harden and Russell Westbrook window of productivity. Instantly.
And it will. Because I've watched Daniel House play. I've seen his intangibles. I've seen what he can do. And I put it like this. You remember when they sent him back down to the G League? If he would have stayed in the G League, Daniel House Jr. would have been the MVP of the G League. He played in a totally different system. He played in a system that allowed him to run, to use his ability instead of just putting him on the wing. Sometimes when Mike D'Antoni would let him go, you could see like, wow, this kid is, because he can get to the rim.
No, you're definitely right. The crossover that he has and the shooting ability that he has, I was upset that they didn't use his skill set more because Chris Paul was eroding. So I'm like, if Chris Paul is not effective in isolation and you have Daniel House out there, let him go.
Yes, and here's the thing. Over time, Daniel House Jr. will be a better shooter, a more efficient shooter than Jimmy Butler ever was. Because Jimmy Butler is not a great shooter. He
can shoot that three. House can shoot that three. And
that's what I'm saying. House can shoot that three. So if you get him and you allow him to play and you get the right people to coach him up, because at some point you got to say, look, we're going to have to take the chains off this young man. And I don't mean that, in any bad way, but you're going to have to unleash him and say, look, we got a dog over here. And I put it like this. Daniel House Jr. is one of those guys that when he step on the court, you're really at his mercy because he can get past you. And if you back off of him, he's going to shoot. Now, he doesn't shoot like James Harden, but he is an effective shooter. And
you're right. And I hope you're 100% right, man. I hope this comes to fruition. If he turns out to be a Jimmy Butler player, I'm going to praise you. I'm going to say you predicted this. Everybody was asleep because I think House could be a really good role player. But when you say Jimmy Butler, that's a lot of expectations. So I'm okay with passing on Jimmy Butler if Daniel House turns into him.
Here's the thing that I think right now. So when people look at Jimmy Butler, they say, yeah, he's a great slasher. You can get to the rim. He's what? He's just 2021 career average score, if I'm not mistaken. But they give Jimmy Butler a lot of praise for his defense. And if once Daniel House learns to play defense, because that's one of the reasons why. Did you notice Daniel House didn't play a lot in the Golden State Warriors series?
Oh, of course, his defense was bad. He always, in the switching style, he would always be like late or he would get beat every time.
But he was a rookie too, going up against a team that's been to the championship
of course.
4 times in a row.
But that's why he didn't play.
And he got into. I don't want to say got into Mike D'Antoni's doghouse. Mike D'Antoni's just like, the moment is too big for you right now. And he understood that. Yeah. But I mean, you got to look at it like this too. I'm saying to myself, it doesn't hurt to play him. You got Eric Gordon is lost in the sauce sometimes. You got Chris Paul got lost in the sauce. He even admitted Game 6 when they lost at the Toyota Center. He admitted when Clay was getting hot, he said, I made a false step and it allowed Clay. He said, I thought Clay was going one way and he actually went the other. So that's on me. And he's like, and some of that happened all night. So all I'm saying is once Daniel House, gets more time in the league, I think like this year, if they, with him signing the contract and him, having that, not to think about, I'm going to be sent back down to the G League. I don't know, if I'm going to get a guaranteed contract. Now that he knows that he has a guaranteed contract, man, because he's been playing at the Fondy, right?
Oh yeah, I've been seeing clips of.
Yeah, man, and so I talked to Kelly Eco from The Athletic. I talked to him all the time. And he's like, bro, he's dominating this league, and so I agree with you. I want to, before we go to the break, give me your way too early top 5 teams in the Western Conference.
Way too early. Okay, definitely gonna go with my team, the Houston
Rockets.
Number 1. 1. Yes, sir. The Los Angeles Clippers, number 2.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Lakers, number 3. The Portland Trailblazers, number 4. And the Utah Jazz at number 5.
Whoa. You say the Jazz at number 5?
No, Golden State at number 5. I'm messing
with
you. No, I'm just messing with you, man. Golden State at number 5.
You got Golden State at number 5. Right now, even with Clay hurt, you still got him at number 5.
Yes, if Steph Curry is the MVP that the media tried to make us love and force down our throat, they better be a top 5 seed.
So here's the thing. All right, so I got it. So you got Rockets, Clippers, Lakers, Trailblazers, and Golden State. All right, and let me give you mine. So I got Clippers, right? Then I got Rockets, and after that I have the Jazz. I got the Nuggets, and then I have Golden State because I think
as a 6 seed?
No, Golden State is as the 15th. So my top 5 is Clippers, Rockets, Jazz, Nuggets, and Golden State.
Oh, no Lakers. Wow.
No Lakers. And look, and when we come back from the break, I'm going to tell you why I did not put the Lakers in my top 5. They old, bro. They old. It's like you going to Mary Bates right now and playing against some of them dudes. You be like, bro, this ain't even fair, right? We'll be back. Looking for a one-stop shop for all your audio and video needs? Then look no further than Always Press Record Productions. With over 100 hours of original content produced, Always Press Record Productions has an experienced staff on hand ready to assist you with all your YouTube, podcast, and music video needs. Check them out at alwayspressrecord.com. Once again, that's alwayspressrecord.com. And remember, they press record and you become the star. Hey, welcome back. You're tuning into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge, and I got with me today my nephew Bryson, who is the Red Nation Blogga on Twitter, and he runs the Bias Sports Talk group on Facebook. I got a question for you before we jump back into the top 5. How did you become the Red Nation Blogga?
Oh man, that name just came to me one day. I was looking for a new Twitter handle, and I was just like, Red Nation. And then I was like, at the time I used to blog and just write little blogs, and I was like blogging, and then it just stuck.
And so how long have you been doing that? How long have you been the Red Nation Blogger?
Man, at least 3 years, at least.
And because you have a nice little following there as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a lot of different things over time that help me get to the point to where I'm at.
And now you also, like I said, you are one of the admins of the Bias Sports Talk group. How did you all start that?
I was actually running another group of my own, called the Round Table on Facebook, and like it was cool, but it wasn't like as active as I wanted it to be. And one of my friends invited me to Bias Sports Talk, and that group was up and coming, and so I was like, you know what? I like the activity on there. I liquidated my group and moved, and I said, listen, we all just gonna go here. And, once I did that, the admin up there who was running that group at the time decided to bring me on as one of the admins. And then we just been trying to get better and bigger from there and trying to expand.
It really is a different group. I will say that. Now, here's the thing that I wanted to ask you now that I have you on this podcast with me. Some of the things you say on Twitter, trolling or just to start a conversation?
Can you repeat that for me?
I said some of the things you say on Twitter, is it trolling or is it a conversation starter?
It's a little bit of both. Sometimes I really would dig deep into my brain and come up with something that I know will trigger people, but at the same time it's truth to it. For example, and I don't want anybody to say I'm being extreme or I'm being extra or something, but it's all just a joke. But James Harden, like you said in the media, gets a really bad rep. I mean, when he does anything, this player could have did. They took that many shots. He's not a great passer, despite him always being top 10 in assists since he became a Rocket. Mike D'Antoni's system made him, despite him being an MVP candidate before Mike D'Antoni got hired. Just everything that they say about James Harden is just like it's so ridiculous and nitpicky. And I feel like outside of LeBron James, he is the most nitpicked athlete in the NBA. And he might be on the level of LeBron James now in terms of just people just nitpicking at his game. But I made a post, which was an obvious troll, but it was like, well, who gets more hate? James Harden.
Wait, hold on. Say it again. You went out. James Harden or who?
Or Jackie Robinson. And I know it's a joke. It's a joke. It's a troll. But it's just to make people understand, like, the way that y'all hate him and the things that y'all say, the lengths that y'all will go to like discredit this man is the same type of scrutiny like that Jackie Robinson faced over basically nothing, like just literally for existing, So it's not extreme, obviously, but it's still just it makes people put it into perspective.
It definitely does. And because, like I said earlier, I'm a Thunder fan. And people say, well, you take up for the Rockets because you cover them and, you're always around the team. I was like, no, I don't take up for the Rockets because of that. I said I report from an unbiased view. When I get to talking, everything that I say, bro, is from an unbiased view unless we talking. If we start saying, okay, so as a fan, how do you feel? Then I'll tell you how I feel as a fan. But unbiasedly, James Harden is by far top 3 player in the NBA.
You could have just said best player. It's okay.
Huh?
You could have just said best player in the NBA and left it at that.
No, I don't, because I don't think that James Harden is better than Kevin Durant.
It's okay.
And I'm not saying, and Kevin Durant's my favorite player, but I mean, when you got a guy that size that can do what he can do and how he can change the dynamics of an entire game. I mean, look at what he scored 11 points in 12 minutes. In Game 5 of the finals, and look how Toronto was, like struggling to keep up with him and saying like we don't even know what to do. So imagine if he would have played the entire 5 games. I digress. James Harden is now I say he's top 3 in the NBA, but he's the number 1 dual threat player in the NBA. Nobody has a quicker first step than James Harden in the NBA. You can't name me, and I know you agree with me, but nobody can name me anybody with a quicker first step. And not only that, because that first step can turn into either I'm finna blow by you or a jab step just enough to get the shot off, which is the second part of his game. You can't back up off of him because he's going to shoot, and you can't get up on him because he's going to go around you, and he's liable to go around you and dunk or throw the alley up to Clint Capella. And so people start saying, "Nah, you're just saying that because you're from Houston." And I mean, I'm talking about national guys saying, "Nah, you don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Well, tell me somebody else who can." I said, "Y'all say that he circumvents the rules because he gets to the, to the free throw line a lot." I said, "That's the same thing they said about Bill Belichick. Every year, Bill Belichick comes up with something new for the New England Patriots that's inside of the rule book." I said, "You can't blame James Harden because he read the rule book and he knows that his step back is not a travel." If you watch James Harden, because, I watch James Harden when he's with the Thunder, but he has evolved so much since he's gotten with the Rockets. And every year he adds something new to his game. Nobody was doing the step back before James Harden, and it's not a travel. It's like he's traveling. And the refs had to come out and say, it's not a travel.
Yeah.
And so I definitely agree with you. And he is by far one of the most hated. I won't forget, man. It was game 2 that James Harden got hurt when he got raked across the eyes against Golden State? Bro, do you know that the Golden State Warriors fans were calling him the female anatomy, saying that he was faking? And even afterwards, I had to go on social media and defend him because they're like, James. I said, how do you fake blood in your eyes? How do you fake? So yes, he is one of the most hated. Now I want to get back to my top 5. Once again, you tune into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I got my nephew Bryson from he's the Red Nation Blogga on Twitter, and he's one of the admins for the Bias Sports Talk group on Facebook. So now I'm gonna go back over your top 5. You got Houston, the Clippers, LA, Trailblazers, and Golden State. I have the Clippers, the Rockets, Jazz, the Nuggets, and Golden State. Now, you wondered why I did not put in the Lakers, right?
Yes, sir.
You know what? I'm gonna ask you, why do you have the Lakers?
I mean, it's for me, it's a respect thing with LeBron and Anthony Davis. That connection, that pick and roll that they're gonna play, that ISO, the passes that LeBron James is gonna make this year to those shooters, the backup big that they have in McGee, the length, the running that they're gonna do next year is, they didn't have Kuzma, who's like a third, scoring option in the half court. Like, they're gonna be a really tough team to beat. And to me personally, when you have a locked in LeBron James, that's better than Damian Lillard. Anything that Damian Lillard and McCollum can do, they're going to be better than them. Anything that Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley can do, LeBron James and Anthony Davis are going to be better than that. The only teams that have players in the league that can match that type of output from those two players are the Rockets and the Clippers, which is why I also have them in my top 3. But when you're talking about, even Golden State to a certain degree, Golden State, if LeBron and Anthony Davis are locked in and playing their best ball, there's nothing Steph Curry and Klay Thompson can do.
So before I retort, which I have a retort, but before I do that, but you was the same one that said Anthony Davis ain't a top 5 player.
He's not. I think it's a difference between top 5 player and top 5 talent, because I would put Damian Lillard in the top 5 players before I put Anthony Davis there. And I know Anthony Davis is a far more talented player than him, but you have to prove that. You have to go out on the floor. You cannot say, I'm the MVP, I'm the best player in the league, and then quit on your team and then not make the playoffs. You cannot do that. It's just like LeBron can't get away with saying, I'm going to activate playoff mode and then go win 5 games of 28 down the stretch.
You think Anthony Davis quit on his team? You think Anthony Davis quit and they didn't shut him down?
They shut him down ultimately because he quit. It was both. It's not strictly on AD. It's not strictly on the organization. Both of them mutually agreed to shut him down. The Pelicans didn't want him to play there if he didn't want to be there. I mean, the guy mid-season basically said he wanted to go to LA. He had his mind made up once he had the dinner with LeBron James.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Because you also mentioned on Twitter that, he's only been to the playoffs twice, right?
Yes, sir.
Out of 7 years that he's
5
been
wins, 5 playoff wins total.
5 playoff
top
wins
5
total.
player.
Have you ever taken a look at the roster that was around him? That's what I'm saying. Even to leave that roster that he had before he got Drew Holiday, and even before he got Boogie Cousins, he only had him half a season.
I hear you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I hear you.
Go ahead.
But the difference is I've seen James Harden with Kostas Papalikanaou, with Jason Terry, with Pablo Prigioni, with Terrence Jones, with the Dwight Howard on the torn meniscus, with Josh Smith, with Brewer, guys that were bought out, traded by teams. I've seen him go to the Western Conference Finals, win 55 games. With Patrick Beverly missing 30 games, with Dwight missing 41 games, with Demo missing the last 18 down the stretch and missing the entire playoffs. I've seen Harden still lead his team to the second seed in the West. And AD is more talented than him, but cannot do the same because he doesn't have the best help.
The year that the Rockets went to the Western Conference Finals, is that the year they came back on the Clippers?
Yes.
That's when
they were down 3-1.
They were down 3-1. They came back and beat them, right?
Yes, sir.
So Josh Smith was on that team too, right?
Yes.
Corey Brewer was on that team?
Really good players.
Josh Smith
was bought out by the Pistons that year and came to Houston.
Yeah, but Josh Smith was good when he was in Atlanta. He was okay when he got here. All I'm asking is this. When they made that run, because Kevin McHale was the coach, right?
Yes, sir.
What was James Harden when they made that comeback when they were down by double digits?
He was on the bench that one game of that 7-game series.
It was the one game. It was the elimination game, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, all right. Now, fast forward. I'm not going to even keep going down there. Let's fast forward to, well, what about when they played the Spurs, when the Spurs had a team that should have been playing down at Emancipation Park?
Talking about 2017?
Yes.
I don't give him a pass for that. I give him criticism. You're not going to see me give him a pass like people give AD a pass. He did not show up that series. No, not that series. The end of game 5, the second half of overtime, and the second half of the game into overtime, he did not show up like he played in the first half. Game 6, he didn't even come to the Toyota Center. I don't know who that was in James Harden's body. I'm not going to defend him for that. I will never defend that type of effort.
Okay, and so what I'm going to say is that, and you remember in that series against the Spurs, game 5, he got his shot blocked by Manu Ginobili, who can't even jump over a piece of paper.
But he came from behind him and the shot clock was going down. Let's use context. It wasn't like it was a 4-24. Manu Ginobili came and he was guarding him from the front, one-on-one, and just blocked him. It was like a desperation heave, and Ginobili would just happen to be behind him, and he blocked it from the back. Harden didn't see him.
So where's the court awareness, though?
The clock was going down with like 1 or 2 seconds left, so you have to just shoot. He didn't have time to do a move or go into a dribble. He had to shoot the ball.
And he got it blocked. That's all I'm saying.
Of course.
So as I digress back to AD, right? If you look at the players that was around him, even from his rookie season on, he never really had any talent. And so by the time he did get talent, right? By the time he did get talent around him, what happened, bro? He was seeded number 6, and they swept the number 3 team in the Western Conference. They swept. And it's funny because people say, well, that's just the Portland Trailblazers. You mean the same Portland Trailblazers that went back to went to the Western Conference Finals the next year. Just last year, AD swept the Portland Trailblazers, not just beat them like 4-2. They swept them.
But Drew Holiday was hooping. Rondo was hooping. Mirotic was hooping.
But they couldn't have hooped like that without the attention being focused on AD.
No, you are 100% right. That's why I know Anthony Davis can give me more. If I seen him do that, I know that when he's invested, his team can do that. But he wasn't invested.
And I'm saying they never really put that kind of talent around him either in the earlier years. So you know what? I think I did it. I think last year I did a show called The Rule of Sevens, because after year 7, LeBron was done. He was done after year 7. KD was pretty much done. That was year 7 for him. Paul George, I think he played 7 years for the Indiana Pacers. Like, if you give a job 7 years and you never get promoted, at some point you got to be like, bro, this ain't the job for me. Like, I've been doing this same thing for 7 years. It's time for me to go. Look, and I didn't want to get too long with it. Let me go back. So you're telling me that you got the Lakers, the number 3 seed with a team that has Avery Bradley, Reggie Bullock, Caruso, Caldwell Pope, Quinn Cook, Troy Daniels, DeMarcus Cousins, Anthony Davis, Jared Dudley, Horton Tucker, Danny Green, LeBron James, Kuzma, Norvell Jr., McGee, Rondo, Lance Stevenson, and Jonathan Williams.
A lot of those guys won't be there, but I do.
Over.
I mean,
you think this roster can beat the Denver Nuggets?
You say, can the Lakers beat the Nuggets?
Yeah, you think you think that this roster can beat?
Without a doubt.
What?
Without a doubt. I seen a washed Chris Paul with the Rockets with the washed Chris Paul shredded them last postseason. LeBron and Anthony Davis in a pick and roll with Jokic defending it. That is not a good recipe for Denver cannot guard the pick and roll at all. That's the one thing that they struggle with, guarding the pick and roll. That would be food for LeBron and AD.
But hold on, series. They got to come back down and do the same thing with Jokic, with the Joker, and Anthony Davis and Murray, and they shoot, and they have some really good shooters on that team too. So
that's very true.
What I'm saying is, their roster doesn't scare me. After, I'm put it like this. I have AD and LeBron as a good 1-2 combination, but as a team, no. You got an old Avery Bradley. Caldwell Pope is garbage. Quinn Cook may be pretty good. Caruso, he got a lot of run and burn because nobody really cared. The Lakers were out of the playoffs, so he looked great. But then you still got Rondo. You don't know what you're going to get from DeMarcus Cousins. You brought back Lance Stevenson, Jared Dudley, Danny Green. It's gotten long in the tooth. Like, you can't name me 5 Danny Green great moments from this past year's playoffs. And so that's why I don't look at them as a team. Also, you've been watching basketball a long time, right, Bryson?
Yes, sir.
What did year 17 look like for Kobe?
You know, and you're right about that. I have thought about that. I'm like, this man about to be 35 years old. But the fact that we haven't even having this conversation of them being potential contenders in the West speaks to how great he is.
Yeah, but so the one thing that the downfall for Kobe was he had entirely too much basketball on his body. So when he blew his Achilles, that was it for him. He was done. But they said that Kobe had enough basketball on his body for 2 players. If that's the case, LeBron got enough basketball on his body for 3 players. You think about it. For 8 straight years, he played from the start of the season to the end of the season for 8 years straight. And now he's going into year 17. That's a lot. And you look at it like this. LeBron never had a significant injury. This first injury that he had kept him out longer than
the other injury. Yeah.
Because he's old. Take it from an old man. Listen, look, the other day my back started hurting. I was like, yeah, I'm good. Man, I tried to get up and that thing caught me so quick. The older you get, the longer it takes for you to heal from injury. So I don't have the Lakers. I think that the Jazz are really good only because they got. I want to see if Mike Conley Jr. makes it past the All-Star break, then I can see the Jazz having a good team. But other than that, so I can't put the Lakers in there just yet because I don't think that a year 17 LeBron, like AD gonna be like, I'm ready to run. But a year 17 LeBron, even when he was healthy, and they say, well, they were like at the number 4 seed, yeah. But you also had other players on that team who was balling out of control too. I really, honestly, truly, let me ask you this, Bryson. Do you think that they're going to miss the on-ball defense of Lonzo Ball? Because now they have nobody to play defense. Kuzma is terrible on defense.
Yeah, he is. But, I mean, definitely, Lonzo Ball's perimeter defender, even in year 1, when the Rockets had the good Chris Paul, Lonzo gave him problems. He couldn't get – he was not getting past Lonzo. It was you had to get hard. Then you had to give Harden the ball with Lonzo Gardner because Chris Paul could not get past Lonzo. Lonzo is a really, really terrific perimeter defender and defender overall. He has real good intangibles on that end. They're gonna miss Brandon Ingram. They're gonna miss Lonzo Ball. But at the end of the day, when you got a chance to get a player like Anthony Davis, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I agree. I just don't. I just need to know where the defense is going to come from, especially the.
I mean, we're gonna see. I really feel like when you playing and you're an athlete and you're like Avery Bradley went to he was in the Eastern Conference Finals the year that they had Isaiah Thomas. That was 2017. He hasn't played competitive basketball on a good playoff team in a long time. He's going to be hungry. You know what I'm saying? And then you got Danny Green, who's fresh off a championship, playing with another team. He's another good defender. He gives Harden more problems defensively than Kawhi Leonard ever has.
But aren't you talking about two? You're talking about two players who coming from the East that didn't play strong competition every night.
Danny Green played with the Spurs for like 8 years. He used to it.
I know, but he's coming back from playing in the East where they wouldn't play like the Hawks, where they wouldn't play like the Charlotte Hornets. And what I'm saying is now you got Danny Green. I put it like this. Danny Green, you put him on the court against Sacramento. Have you watched the way Sacramento runs?
No, Sacramento good.
And you see what I'm saying? So you got to play them on a consistent basis. Phoenix, with the new coach that they have, they're going to be good. So what I'm saying is like, so who going to stop? You know, so they got the young guns up in the Kings with De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. Like, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Lakers to have to stop them. That's the first thing. But then when they got to play Devin, who going to check Devin Booker from them? Avery Bradley can't check Devin Booker.
Yeah, but I mean, it won't matter because on the other end, you have LeBron and Anthony Davis. The production that they give you will cancel out anything. Like, that's why I'm telling you, like, the production that a healthy LeBron and Anthony Davis can give you is more than, like, not many teams in the NBA can match it. Kawhi and Paul George, they can match it. Harden and Westbrook, they can match it. Denver, to an extent, Denver cannot match that explosiveness. They were struggling to score with Portland. I'm not saying Portland is like a bad team, but Portland, that's another team. Dame and CJ can play their best basketball. If LeBron and AD on the other end playing their best basketball, it will not matter.
Well, I put it like this: can we revisit this at the All-Star break?
Of course.
Definitely. Hey, look, we got to get ready to get up out of here. But before we do, I got one more question for you. I want to bring it back to the hometown team, the Houston Rockets.
Okay.
Is Mike D'Antoni on the hot seat?
Definitely. I do feel like the seat is warm. If he wasn't, they would have extended him with no issues when the contract talks. But the fact that, Tim Fertitta gave him whatever deal that was, where he gets $1 million bonus for every round that he wins, but the bonus doesn't kick in until after the first round. And, all those incentivized deals and Mike D'Antoni, like, no thanks, I'll just stick to my old deal, and not take that one. If that's the case, then he's definitely on the hot seat. Mike D'Antoni definitely feeling some heat. I feel like he gets a little bit of a bad rep, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like, I agree with you. All right, tell them where they can find you at.
Oh, yeah, Red Nation Blogger on Twitter. That's Blogger with an A, not an ER. And also on Facebook by Sports Talk, one of the admins. I help run the group. It's fun. It's basically just as active as Twitter is, but it's like just as fun too. Good debates, good sports, everything.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm gonna have to rejoin that group. Can you send me an invite?
Yeah, I got you, man.
All right, listen now, and before I get ready to get up out of here, I'm gonna finally give you what you've been wanting for a long time. All right.
All right.
You ready for this? You sure you ready for this? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, so you sure you ready for this?
I'm listening, man. I'm all ears.
You wanted to know what I knew about Chris Paul, right?
Okay.
So, at the end of the season, during the exit interviews, Chris Paul went to Tillman Fertitta. See, everybody's been focused on what he said to Daryl Morey. It's not what he said to Daryl Morey. It's what he said to Tillman Fertitta. He told Tillman Fertitta, I can't play on this team anymore if you're going to keep Mike D'Antoni as the coach, and if I can't play with James Harden. This is, and when I tell you that this comes from a very, very, very reliable source, He says he went to Tillman because him and Tillman thinks the same way. You remember Tillman inherited Mike D'Antoni and Daryl Morey. These aren't his guys, and Tillman is a winner. All he wants to do is win. So Chris Paul went to him and said, Mike D'Antoni's system is good for regular season. It's not good for the playoffs. And James is on the ball entirely too much because he likes to pad his stats. That was the downfall. So you remember May 18th when I put up CP3 and I put all those eye emojis?
Yeah.
That's what it was from. I knew that
Chris
even
Paul
if they
said that James Harden likes to play on the ball so he can pad his stats.
exactly, he says that he pads his stats. That's what the disconnect was between those two. That's why, if you remember, at the end of Game 6 against the Golden State Warriors, Chris came in right after D'Antoni left when it was supposed to be Steve Kerr, but D'Antoni left, and all of a sudden Chris came in. Normally they are together. He went right then and he was gone, and then James came in last. The rift had already started. You know how they say, you know how people have went on and said, man, there wasn't any beef in the locker room after Game 6. They're lying, bro. They're lying. And I know what Austin Rivers has said. I wasn't in the locker room. Let's just say that as soon as everything was over, I found out what was going on. Yeah. So I knew that Chris Paul wasn't going to be here for long. He was here longer than I thought he was here longer. So now I'm saying, well, maybe they worked it out. But you see that he's gone now. So that's what I've been saying. But, you can't put that type of stuff out all the time because then people be like, you lying, fake news, blase this, blase that. And I'm not one of those, hot take type person. I ain't here for clickbait. So that's why I never said nothing. I just kept it to myself. But now that Chris is gone, I can say it. That's why I told Vincent Goodwill, you're a liar. So that's what I've been holding, bro, for the longest.
Man, that's actually like some bombshells right there.
You see what I'm saying? And look, so I could have dropped that a long time ago, but then I would have been in the battle with everybody saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And
if the trade never goes down, then people are looking at you crazy.
Exactly. And here's the thing too. What I just told you was almost verbatim out of Chris Paul's mouth. And I know people are going to come back after they listen to this and be like, you're lying. All right. You just do your own research, talk to some people and find out for yourself. But look, man, I appreciate you being on, man. I got to have you on again. Can I get you on at least, maybe like in the next couple of weeks so we can see where, we are with the Rocket Summer League and things like that?
Most definitely.
All right, man. Appreciate it, bro. Hey, once again, you've been tuned into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'd like to thank Mr. Bryson Arbuckle, who is the Red Nation Blogga. That's with the A at the end on Twitter, and the Bias Sports Talk group on Facebook. And don't forget, follow me, Big Sarge Sports with a Z on Instagram and Twitter, and BigSargeSports.com. I'm out.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts.
Big Sarge Sports, shout out, world's oldest millennial.